And, I kind of like have used this phrase as a way to capture what I think kind of Peter Drucker was saying, but also the concept of marketing, which is marketing is about creating the right offer and putting it in front of the right person at the right time with the right message. I mean, you could put all of that, but all of this is like about the right. And I've said this many times, it's not right for me, it's right for them. So that's the concept, and marketing lets you do that. Selling isn't about that. Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klink. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Hey there, welcome to episode 194 of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klink, and I'm excited for today's episode because we're continuing my series called The Serve First Entrepreneur Way. This is my series where we're diving into what it really means to be a serve first entrepreneur, because it's one of those phrases that we will sometimes hear people use. And I'm a firm believer that most people don't really know, haven't really thought what it means and the implications. And most people aren't actually living up to the expectations. And I'm not throwing stones. For a long time, I would have called myself a serve first entrepreneur, but I was not always living up to it. So it's something that I want to help people kind of figure out, define, understand how to do it, because I believe it's the best way to build a business. It's how you create brand evangelists. It's how you build kind of long-term loyal customers. It's how you increase customer value. And it's just how you should market. And so that's what we're talking about. Now, this is the fourth episode. If you haven't listened to the past three episodes, go back and start with episode 191, which is kind of my call to arms. It's an introduction to the concept. And then in episode 192, we talked about passion over profits and why you should be building a business that you're passionate about, and the three different passions that you should have. Then in episode 193, last episode, we talked about the concept of, why you need to give more than you take. And it's about this concept of value and how in every transaction and every sense of your life, you should be thinking about, how do I give more value than I take? And how do I increase what I kind of referred to as the value delta? And that's what I want you to think about for the last episode. Now, this episode, we're talking about an important concept that I've talked about before, which is a serve first entrepreneur thinks about marketing over selling. And so that's what we're talking about in this episode, kind of diving into that concept of marketing versus selling and what all that means, what the implications of that are. Now, before I dive into the content, I'm going to give you a quick little, plug for my great freebie, Badass Online Marketing University, completely free training program. Right now, there's one course in there called Online Marketing Foundations. It teaches you how to take fundamental marketing principles and apply them in our space, but we are in the process of adding more as we move our tech stack. We're adding a legal course, we're adding a messaging course, a copywriting course, a list building course, an email marketing course. We're going to have beta launch courses. We're going to have how to create a course. We're going to have something about storytelling. We're going to have things about content marketing, and it's all free. 100% free. You can go and enroll at bobbyklink.com/BOMU. That's BOMU. So Badass Online Marketing University. bobbyklink.com/BOMU. So now let's dive into this issue. And I did I did a Friday episode a while back where I talked about how most people in the online space who call themselves marketers aren't actually marketers. They're online sellers. And I talked about it, but I wanted to do a proper episode as part of this series because it's a message you're going to hear me repeat over and over and over and over again, because the reality is that most people online are not teaching marketing. They're teaching selling. And most of us, what we're doing is focusing on selling, not on marketing. You want to kind of skip over the marketing part and go straight to selling. And so I want to kind of help you understand the difference. And we're going to get kind of nerdy here. But I'm going to get nerdy not because I want you, to have to understand all these nerdy details, but because I want you to understand this isn't just Bobby, some random guy spouting this stuff on the internet. No, I'm talking about actual marketing theory. And I'm currently I have this book, Marketing Management by Kotler and Keller. It's like a book that you would actually take marketing courses. You would learn this stuff from this textbook. Okay. And I'm not even quoting them. I'm going to they quote things. Okay. And so here's a couple of different things. We're going to start with how the American Marketing Association defines the word marketing. So again, this is the Association of Professional Marketers. Marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. Okay? So there was a lot there, but I want to talk about this in pieces. What I want you to get is forget kind of the activity or set of institutions or processes, right? That's just saying it's all the stuff about this. But it's all these things about creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings. Think about that. That's 4 different things. And what I want you to think about for a second is creating offers has nothing to do with selling. Now, yes, you have to sell them, but part of marketing is all of the stuff involved in creating a product. And then it says that have value for customers. So a big part of marketing isn't the sales piece. It's about the creating the right products, creating the right solution, creating something that will have value for your people. And in kind of the last episode, I talked about how this value delta of the more value, like excess value they get, the better. Well, this is kind of this concept of creating value, okay? And creating a product that has value for them. Now, communicating the value, if you think about that, is in a lot of ways what we often think of as traditional marketing. It's messaging, it's copywriting, it's advertising, it's all of that stuff would fall within communicating. There's no doubt about that. But that's not the only piece of it. There's other things where you're communicating, with partners, society at large, etc. But yes, that is often going to be stuff related kind of to selling. But then delivering your offering has nothing to do with selling. Again, this is thinking through the thing of how am I actually going to deliver this result? How am I going to get them this stuff? So again, it comes back to thinking through, number one, how am I going to provide this product? How am I going to do it? But then how am I going to deliver it in a way that will have value for my people? Again, you hear that has nothing to do with selling. Okay. So you can see we're distinguishing here. And then even exchanging offerings. Yes, exchanging there is some piece of sale there, but that's about literally just the act of exchanging. It's not about all of the stuff before. So fundamentally, when you look at those 4 different pieces, selling maybe is part of 2 of them and not at all part of the other 2. And when you go back to the beginning of the sentence where it says that it's the activity, set of institutions, and processes for doing all of this stuff, you think about it, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of actions. That's a lot of activity that you're doing that has nothing to do with selling that is part of marketing. And so I want you to understand that. But then we have to go to the next piece. Offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So part of what I want you to get there is marketing is not just about you and the client or customer. Yes, those are 2 people they talk about, creating offerings that have value for them. But marketing is just as much about creating, and doing all these things and communicating all these things, offerings that have value for your partners. And by partners here, this would mean your suppliers, your vendors, your team, all of the different third parties that you're kind of interacting with in your business. So marketing is about that relationship too. Not that relationship, those relationships. Marketing for me as the leader of a team is as much about leading my team and the way I lead them as it is about talking to my customers. It's as much about building solid relationships with peers in the industry as it is about selling to customers. And it's not about doing that so that I can sell. It's about thinking about those things and creating value in all of those relationships. Last episode, I kind of talked about that, but I want you to get that. And then also the last piece there is society at large. Again, you think about this for a second. Marketing, the American Marketing Association says that marketing is about finding things to create, communicate, etc., things that have value for society at large. So kind of your cause, your mission, your purpose, your passion, all of that comes in too, because that's part of marketing. That's part of what we are supposed to be doing. So I've given you this definition, so you say, okay, I get it. Maybe marketing is broader. But I also want to kind of go a bit deeper. Because again, in this book, it talks about things how, like, you know, a lot of people initially think that marketing is selling, but they try to kind of disabuse you of that belief. And one of the things that they quote, I mean, they quote a couple of different people, and I'm going to read you these quotes. And these are both from like really smart marketing business thinkers, okay? And the first one is Peter Drucker. Now, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you've heard me read this quote before, and I'm going to read it again because it is worth repeating. Peter Drucker said this: "There will always, one can assume, be need for some selling. But the aim of marketing is to make selling superfluous. The aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits him and sells itself. Ideally, marketing should result in a customer who is ready to buy. All that should be needed then is to make the product or service available." Now, when you hear that, what I want you to capture and kind of hear from that perspective is that what Peter Drucker was largely saying, and he didn't use these words, but marketing is the stuff that happens before you sell, before you even talk about the sale. It's about understanding, doing the pre-work. And when you do that, boom, selling is effortless. You don't have to do stuff. You say, here's my stuff. And they say, that's the right stuff. It's the stuff I want. I'm going to take it. And, you know, I've used this, and I kind of like have used this phrase as a way to capture what I think, what I think kind of Peter Drucker was saying, but also the concept of marketing, which is marketing is about creating the right offer and putting it in front of the right person at the right time with the right message. I mean, you could put all of that, but all of this is like about the right. And I've said this many times, it's not right for me, it's right for them. So that's the concept, and marketing lets you do that. Selling isn't about that. But I'm also going to read, Theodore Levitt, who is a Harvard kind of professor, and he said this. And this is going to put the nail in the coffin of any sense that selling is what a serve-first entrepreneur would do. Selling focuses on the needs of the seller. Marketing on the needs of the buyer. Selling is preoccupied with the seller's need to convert his product into cash. Marketing with the idea of satisfying the needs of the customer by means of the product and the whole cluster of things associated with creating, delivering, and finally consuming it. So again, I want you to hear that. This thinker, this is not stuff that I'm making up. This is not, Bobby pontificating on the internet. Very clearly, this thinker is saying, look, selling is about you. Selling is about saying, well, how do I, I got this stuff. I need to turn it into money for me, for my own personal needs. Marketing, on the other hand, is saying, okay, how do I meet the needs of you as my buyer? How do I serve you as a customer? How do I create the right thing? How do I do all of these things so I am, in fact, meeting your needs, not my needs? So from that perspective, from this kind of academic discussion that I've just finished, you kind of say, okay, yeah, clearly a serve-first entrepreneur is focused on marketing, not selling, right? Because selling, is not focused on serving. It's focused on me. But I want to go deeper, and I want to kind of talk about what kind of this means. And I want to make a point that I think I have to say, because it's a concept we hear a lot. We hear a lot that selling is service. And I kind of diffused this, I think, in episode 191. I talked about it. I don't remember for sure, but I think I did. Selling is only service when selling is done right, and when selling is subjugated to marketing. Me selling you something that you don't need is not service. I mean, we could talk about this, and this wasn't exactly a sales process, but we could talk about like the classic scene from National Lampoon's Vacation, the first one. If you've seen that movie, when Clark Griswold goes to pick up his car and the car he ordered isn't there, but they've got this other one that they're saying is his, and they convince him to take it, and it's a piece of junk, right? And his trade-in is there, but he's like, I don't want it. I'll just give me my car back. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. We've already crushed your car, right? So that's selling. But more broadly, I want you to ask yourself this question. If you walked on to like just think of the sleaziest, used car lot you could imagine where it's all about the sale. Is that service? No. I mean, it's not. Now, there are plenty of car salesmen who are about serving, who will tell you, no, this is not the car for you. They're about serving you. So selling can be about service when done right. Like I think about like my dad, growing up, my dad loved cars. He never bought new cars. In my lifetime, while I was living, while I was growing up, I know he definitely never did. And I think he's never bought himself a new car. He bought my mom a new car once. But he would buy like, 2-year-old cars. He liked to buy cars. He liked nice cars, but he would always buy them used. And he had this guy built a relationship. The guy, and I mean, my dad always had a lot of cars. I mean, he would keep them forever and all those things. But he built a relationship with this guy named Jay, who was his car salesman. This guy owned his own car lot. But it was kind of this thing where, this Jay guy understood that he wasn't in this to make one sale. He was in this to build a relationship with my dad. And so he would take the time to understand what and my dad was picky. Like he wanted a meticulous interior to the car, right? So he wanted a car that was, a couple years old, that the inside looked spotless, that there weren't like, any like imperfections and things like that. So this guy understood that about my dad. And he wouldn't call my dad up and say, hey, come take a look at this car that wasn't suited for my dad. He got to the point that he knew what my dad wanted, what he was looking for. And when something came onto his lot that he thought my dad might be interested in, he'd just give him a call and say, hey, you might want to come take a look at this. And he didn't put any like high pressure sales tactics on him. My dad would come over. He would let my dad take the car. Cause they'd built a relationship over time. He would let my dad just have like a 3-day, just take it home for the weekend and drive it and see what he thought. Now, in that context, selling is serving. He was serving my dad because he was doing it. But the reason why it is that he wasn't focused on selling. He was a marketer. Yes, he was a used car salesman, but he was a marketer in the truest sense of the word, right? Think about it. He's not creating the product, but in some sense he is. He's thinking about saying, well, okay, Jan Klink, that's my dad's name. Once, this is what he's looking for. So I'll keep my eye out. And if I have a car that comes into my lot that I could potentially buy, and again, he would go to he would go buy cars at auctions and things like that. He would be on the lookout for things and it wasn't just my dad. He had other customers like this. He knew what they wanted. So he was essentially their scout out there finding the product. So again, that would be the equivalent of creating it in a sense. And so that was the big piece where he was different. And I want to kind of really accentuate this point. And I talked about this guy, Jay. His name was Jay Scheim, and I remember this. I don't think it's around anymore, but it's called Roadrunner Motors in McAllen, Texas. He was fantastic because he did it right. And I wanted to say that so you didn't think I'm saying car salesmen are bad. I don't believe car salesmen are bad. I believe, like anything else, some people are focused on selling, and that's not right. Some people, on the other hand, are focused on marketing, and that is right because they're focused on serving first. So, in the context here, serve first means spending a lot more time on things other than selling. That's kind of the key distinction here. It means that you're not focused on, just creating content to generate demand and then sell to people. So let's talk about things from a perspective here. Like a lot of people who are talking about launch and the launch mentality, they'll say, well, you have your pre-launch runway, and your pre-launch runway is about, getting them primed to buy and all that, right? And it's very focused. It is a sales. It is not marketing. It is about selling. Okay. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying you don't do that, but what I'm saying is serve first marketing is about all the stuff that happens before then. It's about finding your people. It's about being willing to spend time with your people. It's about saying, I need to understand my people at a deep level so I know what they want, what they need, what they value. It's about taking the time to connect with them so that you can kind of do those things at a deeper level, not at a superficial level. It's about then taking the knowledge you learn by finding them, by connecting with them, by understanding them. It's about doing that and creating the right product or the right offer. And this isn't about gimmicks. It's not about like, I've got to create 4 bonuses. And so I will do this and I'll call it a bonus and I'll call that a bonus and I'll say that's worth $1,000. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is figuring out what do they need and understanding it and then meeting that. Like one of the things I'll tell you is if you've done your work, if you've done all of the marketing stuff, you don't have to ask people, well, what bonuses should I create? Because you know what your people need and you meet that need, right? This is another thing I want you to get thinking about that. If you find yourself constantly saying, well, I don't know, what kind of bonuses could I create? And if you're asking people other than yourself that question, it's a sign that you've been too focused on selling and not focused enough on serving. Because when you serve them, you know what they need. You know what they're asking for. You know these things because that's part of understanding and marketing so you can create an offer that has value for them. And then it's about creating the right delivery. And this may be an afterthought for some people. But what I'll tell you is someone who is serving first is going to put thought into what happens after they buy. And do I need to use a different platform? Do I need to change what I'm doing? How am I going to deliver this in a way that will create value for my people? And you have to be intentional about that. It should not be an afterthought that you simply say, well, I'm just going to buy something, buy a course platform and use it and whatever. I mean, I've talked about this. My team and I, we did deep amounts of research. We went deep. We were trying to find these things and we couldn't find a platform that would allow us to do it. So we're building one because we could not find something that would allow us to do what we believe our people need in the delivery so that they can get the value. And by the way, that's for our free program, Bomb You. That level of thought and detail is what a serve first entrepreneur or a marketer does. And when you do all of this stuff that we're talking about, being a serve first entrepreneur, being a marketing really does make selling an afterthought. Now, I don't mean that you don't sell. You have to sell. I sell a lot. And by sell, I mean I make offers a lot. But you know what I don't do? I don't put pressure on people to buy when it's not right for them. I don't put pressure on people to make them feel bad and feel like they're bad people if they don't buy. I don't do that crap. Because I care about serving my people, not selling to my people. And so I know that when I've created the right product with the right offer, with all of those right things, and I simply communicate what it is to my people, the right people will join at the right time for them. And I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to be a hard thing for a lot of people to hear. Now, again, this is not an episode where I'm jumping up and down saying launching is wrong or anything like that. I've talked about why I don't think launching is best for your people. There's other reasons I don't think it's best for you, but I'm simply going to say a serve first entrepreneur has confidence that if I serve and if I make my product available, people will join when it's right for them. I don't have to create some crazy FOMO or something like that to get people to buy, because the problem with doing that is it ends up getting a lot of people who shouldn't buy to buy. And that's not how you serve your people. That's about caring more about yourself and saying, I've got a product that I need to convert to dollars. It's not about saying, how can I best serve my audience? See, I hope you're following here why when I'm talking about these concepts, when I'm thinking about these concepts, when I talk about all of these things where I'm going against the norm in the online space, largely what I'm saying is be a serve first entrepreneur and market, don't sell. Pretty much everything I say that gets people mad at me because I'm bucking the status quo is because I'm saying market, don't sell. And I'm not even really saying don't sell. I'm saying market and make selling the afterthought, the easy part, and then sell the right way from the perspective of a marketer, not from the perspective of someone who is a salesman. Again, what I want you to get is that when you do this the right way, when you approach from this serve first marketing approach, not the me first selling approach, you will have a thriving business. Because again, when I talked last week about kind of the value delta and creating evangelists, this is what does it. Because just think about your experience. Have you ever really liked it when you were pressured into buying something and bought something that wasn't right for you at that time? I think you can honestly say no. So here's the problem with the hard selling tactics. Even if your product is right, but it's not right quite yet for that person, what's going to happen is they can't get value right now. It's going to upset them. It's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. And then they're never going to get the value they could have if you let them join when was right for them. Because you put them on your timeline, not their timeline. And doing that can create ill will and people who literally could have been brand evangelists if you would have allowed them to buy in their own time because you marketed instead of sold, because you served first instead of worrying about sell first. If you had done it right, these people could have been brand evangelists, and now they may be people who literally are saying bad things about you instead. This is the power of shifting from selling to marketing, is you create the goodwill, not the ill will. So that's it for this episode. I'm hoping you're getting value. Now, if you are enjoying this series, if you enjoy the podcast generally, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. Number one, please subscribe to the podcast. The Apples of the worlds, the Googles, all of those things, they like to see people who have subscribed because it somehow affects, it affects the algorithms of who it gets shown to. Second, leave a rating and review. Honest, just be honest about it. I want honest feedback. You can do that wherever you kind of listen to podcasts. And then the last thing, if you think this is valuable, share it with other people. If you think other marketers should be hearing this message that I'm kind of preaching in this series, share it. Get more people to listen to it. That's the first step you could make in being a serve first entrepreneur, is serve other entrepreneurs. Again, why not give it a try? So that's it for this episode. Next week, I will be back talking about a concept that I believe in very deeply, which is that we need to put people over transactions. So I'll see you then. In the meantime, enjoy your week and go out and build the badass business of your dreams. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.